fear not enough. Broken, rusted dreams, blood-red skies ablaze now. Machines tearing at seams. Iron rat, scorched rats, other renegades cower as the chemical shadows dancing midnight hour this hour. Dramadon, Dramadon, warrior born, renegade strong. Dramadon, Dramadon, planet shakes, Zoidstar quakes. Dramadon, warrior born, renegade strong. Dramadon, Dramadon, planet shakes, Zoidstar quakes. Dramadon, Dramadon, warrior born, renegade strong. Dramadon, Dramadon, planet shakes, Zoidstar quakes. rise, fight for what's right. Against the shadow we ignite. Roaring against engines of might. Shatter the darkness with beams of light. And it's Zoidstar rise, fight for what's right. Against the shadow we ignite. We ignite. All the fence of darkness won't back down. We are the vengeance of light. For the light we ignite. Roaring against engines of might. Shatter the darkness with beams of light. And it's Zoidstar rise, fight for what's right. Against the shadow we ignite. Roaring against engines of might. Shatter the darkness with beams of light. And it's Zoidstar rise, fight for what's right. Against the shadow we ignite. We ignite. Renegades and engines of might. Shatter the darkness with beams of light. And it's Zoidstar rise, fight for what's right. Against the shadow we ignite. Renegades, Zoidstar hearts burning bright. Beyond the stars where the shadows lie, we stand on broken wings up to the sky. Feel the power surge in metal veins. Together we conquer, breaking all chains.